Hello, my damn scrumptious ravens. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ravens Real Talk. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for being here. And a little bit about Ravens Real Talk. Basically what it is a talk show that I created on my channel in which I bring up topics that have either affected us at some point in our lives or may affect us at some point in our lives, or things that are just generally good to know or discuss. And we have discussions on these topics, and the main purpose of these talks are to create awareness, educate ourselves and others, and hopefully from this discussion and getting all this new information, we will use this information to do some self-reflection, some introspection, and ultimately become a better person. That is the goal of these talks. So thank you for being here. I very much appreciate it. Today we will be speaking about animal abuse and cruelty and human entertainment. And in particular, I'll be discussing my views on institutions like zoos, aquariums, circuses. I'll be discussing certain hunting practices. I'll also be trying to educate myself more about animal captivity, and the way I'll be doing that and learning more about that is through shedding light on global cases of animal abuse that are just happening around the world for the main purpose of human gain. So animal cruelty is such a huge topic, and I don't want people to be coming into chat and be like, but what about this, and what about this, and what about this? Animal cruelty is huge, and for the purposes of this discussion, since I only have 2 hours that I've dedicated to this specific talk, we will be we'll be focusing on the lens of, we'll be focusing on the topic of animal cruelty and entertainment. So if you guys could help me out, whoever's in chat, by, just flagging it for people that are coming in that are new to the channel, new to the stream, new to the topic, that I understand and I acknowledge that this topic is huge. However, it is, for the purposes of this discussion, we're focusing on animal cruelty in entertainment. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, as always, the purpose of this talk is to educate ourselves and others, spread awareness, and challenge and reflect on our own views. And in this case, it would be specifically on our views of animal cruelty, our views of these institutions that promote and accept animal captivity and profit off of that, and ultimately become a better person by doing the self-reflection and introspection. So without further ado, let me jump in. Here we go. A few years ago, I took my first trip to actually, before I get started, let's ask everyone in chat, have you guys been to your local zoo? And have you been to your local aquarium? Let's start off with that. Let's see how many of you guys have actually gone to these places. So I have been to the zoo. I've been to the aquarium. So I've been to the Toronto Zoo, but I honestly cannot remember. I cannot remember my time there. There are fragments of it, and that's why I don't know if I've truly been to the Toronto Zoo, or is it the Texas Zoo that I'm thinking about, because I grew up in Texas, so I can't quite remember. I'm just gonna say that I've been to the Toronto Zoo since I'm not sure, and I've been to the aquarium here as well. It's been a couple years since I've gone to either. Okay, yeah, I think I went to the aquarium 2014, I think. Oh my god, that's been a while. 6 years. Wow. Okay, well, for anyone who has not been to a zoo or an aquarium, a zoo is basically a place where they have a whole bunch of different animals, sometimes exotic species, that are kept in captivity. They're kept in cages. They're kept in these very tall type of dens or whole open areas that are supposed to imitate their natural habitat. And the main purpose of these zoos is for human entertainment. It's to look at these animals and observe them in their natural habitat. And aquariums, kind of the same thing. It's a huge tank of water, and there are a whole bunch of different species that are just dumped together. Figure it out. That's an aquarium. As you can tell, I'm a little salty by when I'm giving these definitions, and that probably gives away my stance on these institutions, but I don't care. The liquid zoo, exactly. Brandon says, I don't even remember the last time I've been to the zoo, aquarium. It probably has been too long. Yeah, if you can't remember, that's probably because it's just been a minute, like a very long time. Yeah. Ghosty says, I've been to the Honolulu Zoo and a couple of the aquariums here multiple times, but it has been a while. Okay, so all of us are kind of in the same boat. Slay says, I went to the London Zoo, one aquarium in Hong Kong, I think. Can't remember properly either. I also went to a wildlife park where you drive a car through. Very Jurassic Park. Yes, I know what you're talking about because we have one here in close to Toronto-ish, up north, called African Lion Safari. It's kind of like a drive around. So you guys are familiar with the zoo situation. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. I've only been to the zoo, I'm going to say, one time in Toronto. And once I went to the aquarium 6 years ago. So my story that has kind of triggered this whole conversation and my views and all of this begins 6 years ago. I came home. I was so excited. I was showing my sister pictures of all of these amazing aquatic wildlife that I had seen. I had the pleasure of being under a shark. They have that kind of in Toronto in Ripley's Aquarium. They have like a dome that's all glass, and you can walk through this tunnel of glass and just see the wildlife. It's not really wildlife anymore because you're freaking keeping it at captivity. But anyways, we're not going to talk about that. We're getting to it. I'm jumping the gun. But at that moment, I was just mesmerized, guys. I was mesmerized. I had never seen something so beautiful. There is something beautiful and therapeutic about water. I can't quite put my finger on it. There is probably a science behind it that I don't know. But it was just so beautiful and calming. And a part of me wished that there were less people around. Like, that was my concern when I was in the aquarium. Why are there so many people here? Like, I just want to enjoy this in peace. That was what was going through my head, no lie. When I was there and I was witnessing this beauty, that's all I wanted. I just wanted some peace and quiet. I didn't want kids around. I didn't want people around. I just wanted to be there by myself. Of course, and with the person I was with. But that's the feeling I was getting of just being in complete peace. You know, gnarly nerd, hello. It didn't even nothing else really crossed my mind. It was just amazement. I was mesmerized. I wanted quiet and privacy. Yeah, so that happened. I got home. I showed my sister so many of the videos, the pictures and all of that I took. And as she was looking at all of this, she started asking me some amazing questions. Oh, I know you did, and I remember. I'm saying welcome because I think this is your first time here for the Ravens Real Talk. I mean, we know you don't want the kids around. Yeah. But when I got home and I was explaining to my sister this amazing experience I had, she started asking me the tough questions, okay? She started saying, why do you feel like it's okay to go to aquariums? How do you think that they get the wildlife there? Where do you think that these mammals are actually supposed to be? Where are they found? And she asked all of these thought-provoking type questions that started getting me thinking that, oh my Lord, have mercy. I am this acting like a brainless person going into this aquarium, admiring the wildlife that I have no, that I, in my actions, I am not showing any respect to them, whatsoever. I'm literally that person that's going and witnessing these beautiful, beautiful mammals and animals and gawking at them. Basically. I'm gawking at them. And it's okay to be mesmerized by their beauty, but that's not their home. That's not their natural habitat. And when she was asking these questions, like, the gears started turning, and I started reflecting and thinking, I done goofed. But at the same time, there was a part of me that was fighting against that and trying to justify myself going to this place. I didn't like feeling like I made a bad decision. So a part of me was trying to justify my decision to go, and trying to justify that, no, they are treated well. Like, sure, they're kept in like smaller tanks, but it looks pretty big. You don't need all that space, okay? You don't really need the ocean. You will be fine. And that just goes to show you that in all of us, there is the part of us that is trying to be good and do good and wants to be better. And then there's that part that's pulling us down, you know? And no, but I'm going to get to that, D. Hello. And a part of me was trying to justify that. But, you know, kudos to my sister and anyone else who is ever in this situation down the road. Really, when you are met with a situation that you do not particularly agree with, or you like know deep down that it's wrong, use that time as an opportunity for discussion instead of beating the person down. It kind of goes back to what Rain was saying with the whole period situation in the real talk that I had about periods. I had given the example of men making fun of other men for being pussy whipped when they hold their girlfriend's purses or their partner's purses, or they do kind things for them, or they ask them like, hey, can I hang out with my friends this weekend, when they're courteous and respectful of their partner's feelings. And I remember that whole conversation that I was having. It makes me so upset when people confuse respect for weakness, that I remember my comment in that situation when I had asked the question to the panel. I was just like, man, I would just like drop them right away. I would not even like bother talking to them. But then as soon as Rain mentioned that he uses those kinds of comments as a time for education and making that other person feel kind of give that person the opportunity to reflect on what they just said, it made me think that, wait a minute, I think I do that too, and I think that is the right way to go about it. I should be like that. I should be doing that too. And it's the same thing for me. When I mentioned the aquarium, so to give you guys a little background, my sister has a degree in environmental studies and English. And in her environmental studies degree, she learned a lot about conservation, wildlife conservation, and extinction and all of that. And she has also volunteered and worked abroad in sanctuaries. That's her like ideal line of work. So when she heard her own sister talk about something that she was against, she didn't shame me. She used that as an opportunity to educate me. And in turn, when I reflected, I realized that I had made the wrong decision, and I wanted to get more information from her, and she gave me more information about animals in captivity and how zoos work and all of this. And then I did my own research, and I was like, gotcha. I'm never going to a place like that again. So that's my story of how I got to where I am now. Let me take a break and catch up on chat. Slay says, what was the decision to go? Like, you didn't discuss it before you went? Oh, no, not at all. I love marine life, And I think, again, it's so mesmerizing. So the person that I was with at the time, he suggested that we have a, no, I don't think he suggested it. I suggested it. It was on me. I wanted to do something special with him. So I got us tickets to go to the aquarium. That's how it came about. So no, it wasn't discussed. I just like went and did it. And I have not watched Blackfish, but I will be talking about it later. And it is on my list of a documentary to watch. Yeah, people want to see animals with their own eyes. It might be a selfish want, but it's there. Absolutely. And I'm ashamed to say that I was in that category too. And at some some parts of me still wants that, but now I'm at least more conscious of it, and I try my best not to act on that. D says, the thing I'll point out about zoos, not aquariums, is that there's some conservation efforts that go on there with endangered species. And a lot of the animals there are bred in captivity. You can't take them back to their natural habitat where their home is when their home is here in that zoo. They'd be food, but I'm sure you'll go into that as well. Yes, that is on my list as well. Thank you, Dee, for bringing that up. I just noticed a new background and animations looking good. Thank you, Slay. Thank you very much. So that's sort of the story of how I came about here, where I am now, with the opinions that I have, with the desire to speak on this. I wasn't always like this. I wasn't always like, super passionate about this subject. It took me a fall, like I made a wrong decision. I talked about that wrong decision, and it took someone to take a chance on me and educate me and spread awareness to me for me to like reflect and move forward with a better lifestyle from there. So let's start with aquariums, since that's where my story began. Aquariums are part of, I think I read, $1 billion industry that is basically profiting off of animal captivity. Examples of aquariums around the world, especially in the States and in Canada, are SeaWorld, Marineland, Ripley's Aquarium, which is the one that I went to, and at least SeaWorld, not Ripley's, because when I was there I didn't see this, but I think Marineland as well. Two of Marineland and SeaWorld, some of their best-selling shows, or one of their main attractions, is the orca performances. And orcas are also known as killer whales. So before I dive into the performances and what orca captivity is all about, let's find out a little bit about orcas. So through my research, I found out that orcas have the second largest brain of any animal on the planet. They are freaking intelligent, and their brains are developed a lot in social intelligence, language, and self-awareness. And before I dive into, you saw what I did there. And the fact that they're so intelligent doesn't end there, okay? Through my research, I also found out that they have their own like system and their own cultures, guys. In the wild, it says that orcas live in tight-knit family units, and they share a sophisticated, unique culture that is passed down from generations to generations. That's what their research shows. And when I started looking deeper into orcas and why they were called, by the way, they're called killer whales also. And I wanted to find out, why are they called killer whales? Like, when I was growing up and I read about killer whales, or I heard about killer whales, I immediately thought, oh my Lord, if I see a black and white whale in the water, I'ma die. They're gonna come after me. It's gonna be Jaws. But through the research, I found out that they're mainly called killer whales because they are like one of the biggest predators in the water. They are known to sometimes eat other whales, other sharks, salmon. Like their meals really vary from smallest salmon to, or probably smaller sometimes, whatever comes their way, really, whatever comes their way. However, there have been no real or proven accounts of orcas attacking human beings in the wild. And when I was doing some more research, I was like, why? Why though, right? Why? Aren't actually whales. They're in the yeah. So yes, D is right. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, I found that out from the research too, and I didn't mention that. Thank you. Orcas are from the same family as dolphins, not whales, but they can eat other whales. That's what the research said. So in my research, I was like, why though? Why don't they eat humans? And there have been a few reasons that people or research has shown as possible reasons. That is possible, D. I think I read that somewhere, but they also said that they started calling it killer whale because it was just whale killer does sound better. But you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Yes, whale killer sounds less demonizing aside instead of killer whale, and killer whale has earned orcas like a bad rep, I think, and I don't think it's a very fair name. Sharks kill to eat. All animals kill to eat. So killer whale just doesn't seem fair. But that's my personal opinion. What was I saying? Yeah, no accounts of killing humans, but they have killed their trainers in captivity. What do you mean, Ghosty? Killer whale is kind of mental? Oh, metal, sorry. Metal. Oh. But killer whale, I feel like, instills fear in people, and it gives killer whales a bad rep, in my opinion. By ancient sailors, observations of groups of orcas hunting and preying on larger whale species. They called orcas, or whale killer, a term that was eventually flipped around to the easier killer whale. Okay. I feel like I might have read that, but then I also, like, the paragraph later was also saying that it's because they eat, like, they can eat anything in the water. I just don't want another Uncle Ben situation. Oh, okay. Well, when I was doing the research, it said that's one of the reasons that it's killer whale, but it was another reason as well, and it was just that it was able to kill, so it was able to eat and take down, I guess, so many different animals in the water, or mammals in the water, and aquatic life. Slay says captivity is an artificial environment which makes for artificial behaviors too. Yes, very good point, and very nicely put, Slay. So I tried to find out why there was no, like, why don't whales harm us? Like, why don't whales want us? And some of the reasons that research has shown could be is that we might just not be tasty. Like, we might just not be good enough. I don't know if it's maybe our odor, or maybe maybe they have tasted it, and then because they have such tight-knit cultures, someone had tasted one, and then the word spread, like, they don't taste right, like, don't go for them. Who knows, right? Another thing that they suggested is because they have these tight-knit cultures and that are passed down through generations, there could be like an unspoken rule that you just don't go after humans. It could just be as sophisticated as that. And the other reason they said could be a possibility that they don't go for humans, for the reason is that we don't resemble any food source that the killer whales typically depend on. Which makes sense if you think about it. We are strange looking to them. So, other things about orcas is their natural behavior is to swim very, very long distances, hunt for food, and to look for mates as well. But in captivity, orcas are kept in artificial social groups. They can only swim in endless circles inside tanks, and these tanks resemble what would be like bathtubs for us, which is how it was phrased online. And just to put it into perspective, they themselves are between 23 to 32 feet. Okay? So they themselves are between 23 to 32 feet. Tanks, when I read online, are generally 170 feet long. Or long. Yeah, 170 feet long, 90 feet wide, and 40 feet deep. 40 feet deep. Bro, they themselves are 32 feet deep. For 32 feet long. So imagine they're trying to go down like this. That does not leave a lot of space for them to go down. And typically, they dive nearly 1,000 feet every day. And they travel up to 140 miles every day. That is nowhere close to their natural habitat. Those tanks, nowhere close. And a lot of them die shorter of their species' natural lifespan. In the couple cases that I'm going to share with you guys soon, the orcas died like 40 or 30 years before they normally are meant to pass away. Like, it's having orcas in captivity severely reduces their lifespan. It's crazy. And a lot of them exhibit signs of stress induced behavior, such as grinding their teeth on their tanks, and they grind it so much till the nerve is exposed that it leaves cavities. And of course, aggression. Aggression is another stress-induced behavior that's apparent in orcas that are living in captivity. And another cool thing that I wanted to share with you guys is, orcas are so intelligent and self-aware and experience such deep emotions that there was an article that let me see if I can find it actually. There was an article that I found that showed that an orca was holding their dead calf afloat, and it was showing I found it right here. It was showing human-like grief, and people say that they don't feel. Look at this. Hold on, let me see if I can make it bigger for y'all. You see this? Killer whale holding dead calf afloat is showing human-like grief, experts say. Mother orca J35 has been balancing body of its dead calf on its nose for several days as of Monday. And this is from 2018, not too dated. But what was it saying? Grief and love are not human qualities. They are things we share with some other animals. And I thought that was so beautiful, that there are so many people who look down upon animals and mammals that are not like them just because they don't look like them. They can't speak the same language that we can. But it's instances like these that help us recognize that there are so many more complex emotions that are happening in them that we haven't either learned of yet, or we just choose to ignore, or whatever the case, or we just don't have the knowledge of. But they're there, and the fact that they can feel that much is a direct indication of how captivity would affect them. I cannot speak about orcas living in captivity and sorry, one second. I cannot speak about animals, orcas living in captivity without talking about the first performing orca that was trained. And that was an orca called Shamu. So before I start talking about Shamu, let me read chat really quickly. Captivity is an artificial environment. That is a very considerable amount of time. Yes. D says, yeah, I watched Blackfish. SeaWorld has ended its breeding program, so the orcas are being phased out. Not sure about other aquariums. Well, let me tell you, D. I will tell you something. We know that part. We know that part? Sorry, Slay, what did you say? There was something I sent you, Raven, relating to that, but I hadn't seen if it was true. The thing I sent, not what you said. Okay. Okay. So Shamu was captured in the wild in 1965 when he was 3 years old. So just a little baby, just a little one. It was the park's first performing orca. The whalers harpooned and killed the mother. And in my head, I was like, I kind of know what a harpoon is, but I don't really know what a harpoon is. And it's kind of like a spear, basically. It looks like it's a hunting spear that they mainly use for aquatic animals that I've seen. And the young orca, when the mother was killed, it refused to leave her mother's dead body's side, her dead mom's side, and it was dragged away and sold to SeaWorld San Diego. So yes, this is a very long time ago, but this is kind of where it started. He was deprived of food to make. Oh, sorry, she was deprived of food in order for her to learn tricks. And she was used in shows until there was an incident in 1971 in which a park employee was instructed to ride on her back for a televised publicity stunt. And what happened is the trainer fell off of Shamu's back, and the orca Shamu clamped her teeth on the woman's leg, and it just refused to let go. They had to put a pole, shove a pole into Shamu's mouth and to pry the jaws open. And the trainer whose leg was bit down on needed 1,000 stitches, man. 100 stitches, more than 100 stitches. And the what's that called? Get this, guys. The trainer sued SeaWorld. And then Shamu was retired from the show. I'm just like gonna put this out there. But what if Shamu was punished in some way for doing that? I just don't feel that. I wouldn't put it past the people, the trainers or the people in charge, that you're held in captivity and you're kept away from food to do your tricks. You mess up, you don't get fed, or you get treated poorly. Like, that seems like a logical next step, I think. But that's just speculation on my part. I have no proof of that happening. I'm just saying what we do know is that she was denied food in order to perform tricks. She later died that year at SeaWorld of a uterine infection and blood poisoning. She was only 9 years old. So she survived 6 years in captivity. And in the wild, she could have lived to be older than 100. That's crazy. 9 years old versus 100. That's insane. That is insane. And you would think that SeaWorld would have stopped there and saw, like, listen, we're putting, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. And we're putting employees in danger. This is just not right. And you thought they would drop? No, boo. They saw how much money, the profits that were coming out of these shows, and like the overwhelming amount of people that were showing up to these shows, that every SeaWorld that opened up had their own Shamu. So each place had their own. 9 years. Yeah, 9 years. It's a little new. And the next story, or the next famous story that I wanted to bring to you guys is, actually, before we do that, I want to show you guys something. This is a video from 2006. 29 for females and 17 for males. For them? For orcas? I feel like I got that from, oh my god, thank you. What the hell? I got that from, pretty sure it was PETA. Wait. Un secondo. Maybe it was PETA? I don't know. Possibly. But I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. 29 for females and 17 for males. Thank you. Okay. What was I going to say? Okay, so I wanted to show you guys a video that I found on YouTube. It's a SeaWorld video that was released. And I just want us to pay attention to how the news phrases this attack, this killer whale attack. Okay, can you guys hear this?
Set against the seemingly...
Can you guys hear this? In their favor. I actually figured that too, Slay, so I didn't use a lot of information from them, but I did use some that were like fact-based that I would like go and, of course, the lifespan I didn't research, so my bad for that. But other things that I got backup for, I used.
Cheerful background of SeaWorld's Orca show in San Diego, the video from 2006 is chilling. Ken Peters, an experienced trainer, is swimming with a 5,000-pound female named Kasatka, an animal he's worked with for years. With no apparent warning, the killer whale grabs his feet and pulls him underwater for close to a minute. Then it brings him to the surface where the trainer pets the whale, tries to calm it, only to be yanked down again.
It's a horrifying...
Okay, I want you guys to pay attention to this woman. Pay attention to this woman, the way she's speaking, and what she's contributing to the story. Okay, so yes, I think that's what I want you guys to focus on.
For close to a minute. Then it brings him to the surface where the trainer pets the whale, tries to calm it, only to be yanked down again.
It's a horrifying event to watch.
We asked Carol Ray, who was herself a SeaWorld trainer for 2 years, what she sees that a tourist might miss.
I think that Kasatka was trying to make a point. Once they finally come to the surface that first time, she's making a point by keeping him captive like that.
Ray insists that many times in her experience, orcas broke off from their trainers, acting out in a sense. Usually the whales were brought back under control with no serious results. And in the 2006 video, the whale finally releases Peters, who scrambles from the pool and staggers away with a broken foot.
I think he had no choice but to simply remain calm, do what he can to get her to relax. But at the same time, if she had wanted to do more damage, she very easily could have, and I think it was her decision.
Amid reports of Kasatka's attack in 2006, SeaWorld said this.
There are times like this when they are killer whales, and she did choose to demonstrate her feelings in a way that obviously was unfortunate. And we are unfortunate that our guests did have to see this, and we obviously do not want this.
Now embroiled in litigation with the government over working conditions, SeaWorld said it could give us only a written statement about that video, which says in part that it clearly shows the trainer's remarkable composure and the skillful execution of an emergency response, which helped result in a successful outcome with minor injuries. SeaWorld's trainer returned to work shortly after this incident and remains a member of the team to this day.
Bro, when I first read that, I rolled my eyes so hard. Okay. The reason I wanted you guys to focus on the lady and how what she contributed to the conversation, there was something about the way that she was speaking that seemed like she was not it seemed like she was on the whale's side. That's like the plainly put. It seemed like she was on the whale's side, but the way that they cut her audio or her video, whatever, it seemed like she was saying, oh my God, it's so horrifying. And like, it's so horrifying. It's so bad what the whale did. And, you know, she was holding him captive. But if you notice her word choice, she's clearly, well, to me, it was clear. It was, to me, clearly showing that she was trying to say that the whale doesn't like to be held captive. So she's showing you how she feels. Like, she is showing you what it feels like, and kind of threatening you in a way, like, if I really wanted to hurt you, like, badly, I could. And side note, it's another example of how media chooses to tell the story that they want to choose to tell. Like, it is biased. So I did some more research on who this lady is, and guess what? She got like 3 words, right? It seemed that way. The whale mode choice. Yeah, look at this.
2006 can foot.
Remain calm.
Trainers acting out in a sense. You broke off
Captive like that.
Ray and Sid.
Him captive like point. It's that first time she's
Oh, look at this. And yo, the thing that gave it away for me is that line that she said at the end. Sorry, I cut it off before. Look at this.
Just as the debate continues too over trainers
hold on. It's coming.
with the sea's top predators.
The only reason to get in the water with them is for entertainment.
Look at her body language. Look at her body language and the way she's saying that.
The only reason to get in the water with them is for entertainment.
That is a dead giveaway for me, that I'm like, she is not on board with this. And the cool thing is, or the interesting thing is, she used to be a trainer. She was a trainer for like, I think 3 years or something. So I was really intrigued by the way she was speaking. It seemed like she lived that lifestyle and she was not about it anymore. So I did some more research on her, and it turns out also, for 2 seconds, the reason I rolled my eyes is that they in this video are talking about, oh my God, the trainer kept great composure, blah, 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 whatever. But guess what? If something would have happened to the trainers, who would have been put down, or who would have been killed, or who would have suffered? The whale. And it's not even their fault. It's always like this. And I'll be covering many cases of this. But anyways, Carol Ray, she worked for 3 years training cetaceans at SeaWorld of Florida. She is a co-sponsor of proposed California State Bill AB 2140, which seeks to end captive orca performances and captive breeding, and has been an active in support of a similar proposed bill in Washington state. She is one of the founders of the advocacy organization Voice of Orcas, which monitors news and current events related to marine mammals in captivity. I thought that this was pretty cool. Like, don't hold me to being a representative of this organization. I haven't done research in the organization. I don't know if there's any scandals. I don't know anything like that. All I saw was that there was a person, Carol, who has lived the lifestyle working with these orcas. And I don't quite know all of her story, but it seems like she realized that that was not the correct way to go about dealing with the orcas, and it should not happen. And now she's doing something about it, because now she is a co-sponsor of a proposed state bill, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool if you ask me. SeaWorld should have commented on why the whale behaved the way it did. Yes, or they should have said, through this incident, we will revisit our treatment, or we will revisit our conditions, maybe our orca living conditions, something that accepts responsibility and accountability. So the other example that I wanted to bring up in SeaWorld as well was back in something that happened back in 2010. It was a orca called Tilikum. Tilikum was caught. Ghosty says, well, neither of those types of responses would have been in their financial interests. Of course not. And it's all about the moolah, baby. Tilikum was caught in Iceland, where he was 2, and he spent the rest of his years in captivity. He suffered from bullying from other captive orcas, other captive whales. And because it was in a tank, there was no escape from the suffering. And a lot of the altercations that Tilikum had with other orcas or other whales led to a violent type of altercation, and it left him bloody, injured. The trainers also, or the people in charge, withheld food so that he could learn tricks. And one of the most disturbing thing that I saw for Tilikum, read for Tilikum, is one of the tricks, or one of the things that he was told to perform, was for him to roll on his back so that the employees could masturbate him. And they wanted to collect his semen in a container so that they could give it to the female orcas. And the company basically used him as a sperm producing machine. And in this program, it was designed to inseminate female orcas forcibly so that they would basically give birth to more captive orcas who would be trained and produced to perform and make them more money. And he was bred 21 times, guys. 21 times. And 11 of the 21 of his children died before he did. That's crazy. That's really sad. And some other things that he suffered with was stress from the separation from his family, confinement, boredom, aggression against trainers, and aggression amongst other marine animals, and a very demanding entertainment schedule. I tried to find online past entertainment schedules of orcas that SeaWorld had possibly published. I couldn't find them because I wanted to see like how much, how extensive, it's real, how extensive the schedules were. But unfortunately I couldn't find those schedules. But I'm guessing it was quite exhausting. And not even just exhausting, it's completely not in their natural nature to be performing these things and these tricks and all of these things. February 24th, 2010, Tilikum pulled down, so he dragged a SeaWorld trainer named Dawn Brancheau into his pool, and he killed her. And I listened to an audio recording of a witness that saw what was happening in the tank, because she was on the floor level of the tank where she could see inside and not outside. So she said what happened is Dawn had fallen in the water, or she got in the water, and the orca had like headbutted her in the chest, and she was still alive at that point, like with his snout. Is it called a snout? I think it's called a snout. And apparently the hit was so strong that she like flew in the water. No, they don't learn, Jeremy. And she was still alive at that point, but then he just chomped on her, and she was I think she was, died. And that event was not the only incident in which this Tilikum was involved in a death. He had killed 2 other people in the past. One was another trainer in 1991, and another one was a trespasser in 1999. 2010, not very far away, guys. Not very long ago. 10 years ago. Not very long ago. And if you guys would like to learn more about what happened to Tilikum, his life, and his passing, unfortunately, his death, in 2013, there was a documentary that was released called Blackfish, and it talked about the psychological toll of captivity on Tilikum. So definitely check that out. It's on my list. I have not seen it, so I don't have all the details about what it's exactly about, but I do know that it's definitely a must watch if you want to learn more about Tilikum. Ghosty says, or rather, they're learning the wrong things. Yes, they are. And they're promoting the wrong things. They're promoting having animals in captivity. Another example of how animals are kept in captivity and how that is so detrimental for their health. There was one instance of a great white shark being captured in Japan. Guess what happened to that shark? A great white shark was captured. It died in 3 days. It refused to eat. It didn't survive, man. Captivity is not for, and when I think when an autopsy was done, if I'm not mistaken, they said, hold on, I have the article right here. Yeah, see, a great white shark breaches the surface in A great white shark captured by a Japanese aquarium died Friday, just 3 days after in captivity, the aquarium announced. That was crazy. Like, I didn't do much research into exactly why. But I don't think it had any pre-existing health conditions or anything like that. The Herald reported that the first attempt in 1984 ended when the shark refused to eat. This is the second time, guys. So it probably died of starvation and captivity. And while its most recent shark, exhibited in 2011, was released after 2 months in captivity, it died just minutes later. What did they do to capture the shark? Did they take it to an aquarium? Yeah, it said it was captured by a Japanese aquarium. So I'm guessing they put it in an aquarium and it just didn't survive. It refused to eat. That's crazy. And it's not the first time. So people don't learn, guys. Wow. A lot of them don't survive. That is so sad. Oh my goodness. Ghosty says, something that's been eating at me is, how do we ask humans to look at the animals in zoos with the same empathy we'd show our friends, when a lot of humans don't even extend their empathy to all humans? I don't know, Ghosty. Honestly, I don't know. I usually end a lot of my real talks with where do we go from here? What can I do? How can I improve? And I was stuck on that as well. Until we can start viewing animals differently, this is going to keep happening. I think part of the reason a lot of these incidents happen is that animals are treated as these subpar, unintelligent creatures that we're just sharing the space with, but they don't have feelings. They can't talk. They don't have feelings. Just do whatever you want with them. Oh, we can use them to make money? Do it. And until we get over this elitist mentality, like we are the best, we are supreme beings, we are the number one creation, we are like up here, animals down here, let's burn dogs and stuff and throw alcohol on them and then light them on fire because it's fun to watch. Let's strangle cows and wrestle cows just because it's fun. Let's go stalk and hunt deer and then stuff the head and post it on a wall because I'm so proud that I hunted that deer. Like, until we stop doing shitty things like that, it's not, I don't think it's gonna change. Excellent points, Ghosty. Yeah, the expression "you're acting like an animal" or the like never made sense to me. We're literally animals. And I think I talked about this before when I was saying there are a lot of animals that actually exhibit more human traits than we do. they, like, the things that humans do to each other, a lot of animals don't do that to each other. They don't do that to their own loved ones. They don't do that to their own communities, their own families. So it almost is incorrect, I feel like, to say that. Why is it that some humans can have empathy towards captured animals while others see that it's okay? This is okay. I don't know. I think it's the elitist mentality. D says, I'm going to be that guy and say some of this seems unfair. What seems unfair? So that now that we've talked a little bit about aquariums, I just talked about a few cases that have happened in the States and around the world, but this extends to all kinds of marine life. I was actually looking into stingrays and dolphins too, and the same thing goes for dolphins. They suffer from the same type of things that these orcas do, and whales, and I'm sure sharks as well, because sharks are used to hunting for their prey and swimming, long distances as well. I think I read somewhere that a good way to test or a good way to gauge how well an animal would do in captivity is see their natural habitat and see how big that is, how vast that is. And that's a good comparison of how well they would do in captivity. And if I'm not mistaken, sharks live in the ocean, and the ocean's pretty huge. A little tank is not really going to be what it needs to survive. And, well, it can survive, but it's not what it needs to live a healthy, ideal lifestyle. Ghosty says, were you planning to visit some of the justifications for aquariums before you leave the topic? I was going to do it at the end, because at the end, I'm going to tie in like all the justifications or some of the justifications for aquariums, zoos, circuses, hunting, all of that together. Yeah. Jeremy says, Ray, question for you. Would aquariums be okay if it were just small fish on display in a large tank? That's tough, man. I don't know. Small fish on display in a large tank. I guess the point I'm at, personally speaking, completely personally speaking, is why. Why are we having these animals and mammals on display? Why? What's the purpose? Because it looks beautiful? Because we think it looks pretty? Because it's going to add to the aesthetic? Because I want to observe them? I personally, my opinion is that I would rather just not. I would just rather not. But I don't know any scientific backing of small fish suffering from stress or not suffering from stress in a huge aquarium. I don't know. But if we're going to treat them as the same as these larger mammals and animals possibly have the same effects on them, I don't know. There may be educational purposes. I personally believe, again, at the end I'll be talking about this, is for educational purposes. We have amazing documentaries. We have Natural Geographic. We have the Earth and Water documentaries in which they literally show you up close and personal in great detail the school of fish in their natural habitat, and or these creatures, how they hunt for food, and the intimidation tactics and all of that. Like, for me, I think that is educational enough. I feel like that kind of question really gets answered differently depending on how much intelligence in a life form determines how free they ought to be. And that's why I said I can't really answer that. D says, just the approach to the topic. It doesn't sound like an educational talk as much as anti-aquarium, anti-zoo forum. The issues with SeaWorld have been addressed. Pretty sure the 2010 incident was the reason Blackfish was even made, and it was successful at getting SeaWorld to change their program. Once their orcas die, they're done with orcas. Once their orcas die. Yeah, but my issue is, sorry, to get to that point, I'm talking about my views about aquariums and zoos. So these are my views on aquariums and zoos, and I am anti-aquarium and anti-zoo. And the only exceptions that I have are exceptions I'll be talking about later. So right now I'm just talking about incidents that have happened, and I was curious to see if there have been any 2020 hi serial killer 2020 shows scheduled, and I found a video of a 2020 show that, thank you for mentioning that, I forgot to show you guys. So this one, if you can see, there's still a lot of, what's that called? Luckily, there aren't a lot of people filled up in the audience, but there is the Orca show that's still going on. That's still a decent amount of people. That is still a lot of people. And my personal opinion is I don't think they should be continuing these shows. So, I honestly thought that in 2020 or after all the incidents, it would be like no, we shouldn't do these anymore. I don't know if they're going, I didn't read about if they're going to be, because this says new for 2020. The Orca encounter. And it's supposed to be more educational. I still disagree with it. That's just my personal opinion. So what was I going to say? Sorry, let me open it up. Okay. So that's the stuff about aquarium. Orca shows have apparently been outlawed in California. Really? Where was this? I think this was Florida, if I'm not mistaken. Orlando. Yeah, it's Florida. This one's Florida. So I'm glad that it has been outlawed in California. That's amazing. That's really good. I just hope other states and countries and cities would follow suit. In terms of zoos, they are usually referred to, or they usually are a collection of interesting animals. And in zoos, most zoos have animals that are preventing from doing, natural things like running, climbing, flying, hunting for their prey, and choosing a partner and being with others of its own kind. And much like the aquatic animals, they do experience things like boredom and they get depressed. And there are some zoos that when I was doing my research, there are some zoos that do take part in having conservation efforts or being a sanctuary. However, I do fully believe, from what I could tell from the research, is that not all of the animals there. It isn't a sanctuary. Essentially, it's not a sanctuary. Like, a lot of the animals are still captured and brought to the zoo. So and I'll go more into this later when I'm discussing the reasons that people give for being in favor of it. I am not in favor of zoos, predominantly because even though there may be some conservation efforts, the large majority of animals that are there are not there for those purposes. So animals are normally the animals that are in zoos are bred in zoos, right? And when they're bred in the zoos, my research showed that many of them may imprint on human beings because that's who they're interacting with a lot, and that's who's showing them all the affection and care, I guess. And they imprint. It's a huge issue when they imprint on human beings instead of their own species, because that would affect their mating habits. And this is my sister gave me a really good example of this. I think it was a duck. My sister was telling me that when she worked at the sanctuary in Chilliwack, Chilliwack in Texas, there was, I think it was a duck. The duck, it was a sanctuary that she was working at, and the duck was, the duck, I think, had like a broken foot or something like that. It was injured, and the duck was raised in the sanctuary, and then it was going to be released into the wild. That's what they do in the sanctuary that she went to. They rehabilitate them, they give them the medical attention that they need, and then they release them back into their natural habitat. And in this instance, because it was always around human beings, and the human beings were the ones tending to it. Oh, it was because I think it was a baby, and the mom, he had lost his mom before he could even open his eyes. So when he opened his eyes, the first person that he saw was a human being, and it was the human being that had rescued him. So he had imprinted on a human, and he didn't want to mate with his own kind. Yes, that's what it was. And I thought that was slightly amusing, but it's actually very sad for him because he's not going to, get on with that part of his life. And I don't know what they did with him. I don't know if he, like, how you change, you unimprint, but that's something interesting that I found out through my sister. Ghosty says, I don't think I had ever seriously considered the ethics of zoos till I saw that this was your topic, and it makes me really sad how little thought I've given it. Oh, me too, Ghosty, and the fact that you're here is really amazing, so thank you for being here. Through the research, it showed that although animals do have a longer lifespan in zoos than in the wild, they might just experience a lower quality of life because they are still kept in captivity. They are still taken out of their homes, their natural habitats. And there are many instances where it kind of makes me question how these animals were acquired. So a lot of these tigers that are there in zoos, or gorillas, it makes me think, like, how did they capture them? And I can't really find answers for those questions. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to give you guys incorrect information, so I'm not gonna like make stuff up, but I don't know. I did read that there was one incident of Tatiana, who is that's what I was thinking, Ghosty. I didn't want to believe it, but Tatiana was a Siberian tiger, and this was the case in 2007. It was acquired by the zoo when she was 2 years old, and she was bred for strong genes. This was in San Francisco. It's from 2007, so it's a little dated. But nevertheless, this was an incident that happened, and there were a few people that allegedly taunted the tiger, and the tiger escaped and attacked them. And after attacking and killing one of the three boys, and I think severely injuring one of them, both of them, when the cops showed up, they shot Tatiana, killed Tatiana. I won't lie, guys. I might sound like a dick, but as much as I want to feel bad for situations or instances like this, a part of me still says, why do you have them in captivity? Like, this could have all been avoided if you guys just didn't capture this tiger. It's like you're blaming the tiger for being a tiger. That's what it does, though, right? Like, it hunts, it kills, it survives, and I feel like if you have it in captivity, did they capture it? Did they breed it? It said acquired by the zoo at 2 years old, and it was bred for strong genes. So I don't know. It was acquired at 2 years old. So captured? And then we all know about Harambe. See, I don't know a lot about Harambe, and I saw this video for the first time. Let me show you guys the video for those of you who haven't seen it. So, again, this was a gorilla. I think a silverback gorilla, and it's kind of like in this very deep den, I guess. And the child, I don't know how. This is another thing. How I was waiting for Harambe. Were you? Bought or traded? How would they know it was bred for strong genes if they captured it? I think Ghosty's right. But even if you buy it or trade a gorilla, is that really good? All I really remember of this is the meme, which is a little sad too. I don't know much about this situation, this Harambe situation. All I know is a kid fell down and the gorilla was shot and killed. That's all I know. So I tried to find more information about it. And guys, what I don't also understand is how are there so many kids falling into these pits? Like, is that not negligence on the parents' part? I think what's happening is the kids are too small to see what's happening, so the parents pick them up, the kids get a little antsy, and then they fall. That's what it seems like to me. I could be wrong, but he shows you how tall the gate is.
This is a baby gate. The barrier was
So the barrier was this high.
about this high, 3 feet tall.
About this high.
The image is jaw-dropping.
Oh my God!
A 450-pound
So the kid is being dragged in the
gorilla
water.
dragging around a 3-year-old boy like a rag doll. This morning, the Cincinnati Zoo defending its decision to put down the 17-year-old endangered
It is most definitely negligence.
silverback.
And apparently this whole incident took place over the course of 10 minutes. My question is, right, why didn't zookeepers get in there and interfere? What are their policies and procedures that are in place for situations like this? Why did it take them so long to react? 10 minutes, apparently.
Named Harambe.
That child's life was in danger. And people who question that, or are Monday morning quarterbacks or second guessers, don't understand that you can't take a risk with a silverback.
So that's the other thing. When I was watching this, I was like, why didn't they just use tranquilizer darts? But then I thought to myself, listen, if that was my kid down there or my brother and a tranq dart doesn't work upon impact, and I don't think a lot of them do, I feel like the gorilla could have become violent. It could have lashed out. They're quite strong. It could have definitely harmed the kid. So I understand their decision to shoot. I do wish that action was taken a little sooner. Even what's that called? When the what's that called? The Dawn situation happened with the killer whale with the orca. Sorry, the woman who was recounting the incident that she saw, she said the alarm didn't go off till like the killer whale was about to chomp her, or I think when the killer whale headbutted her, something around that time. So I don't know if that's just the track record of zoos and aquariums, like they take a while to react, but that's something to revisit, right? If they have policies and procedures in place that don't address like immediate action. In my opinion, it's a more like better to be safe than sorry. It's better in my opinion to like react quickly and then realize like, oh, that wasn't a big deal. She was just playing with the trainer or whatever, as opposed to not taking action, waiting it out, and then realizing, oh shoot, it's an actual threat, and then reacting. You know what I mean? D says, I don't know the morals or ethics of it, but certain organizations would suggest just releasing them into the wild, but that would just result in them dying because they don't have any survival skills. One such organization even suggests pet owners release their dog into the wild. Okay, my stance on the whole releasing into the wild is, if you want to rehabilitate an animal, rehabilitate the animal and then release them into the wild. Like, nature will do its thing, right? It's not our job to intervene in nature and be like, no, I know what's better for you. But if you are capturing an animal and then breeding it, and then that animal is just growing in captivity. So yes, it does not have survival skills. It has instincts, but it doesn't have the skills that are developed in the wild. Then yes, it could be harmful for them. But why are you capturing and breeding them in captivity in the first place? That's my issue. Like, to begin with, why is that happening? That's the way I look at zoos that do that. Sanctuaries are different. Rehabilitation centers different. There was a video that I saw that I want to show you guys too, of a zoo that captured a jaguar that was shotgunned. The jaguar suffered like shotgun wound. It became blind because of it, and they right now have it in like I guess a sanctuary part of the zoo, where they're cleaning its eye, they're giving it antibiotics, taking care of him. And I 1000% agree with that type of scenario. And they even said that if he was just released into the wild, he would have died from his wounds. He wouldn't be able to fend for himself because he was blind. However, I don't agree with the captivity portion of it, which I think a lot of animals suffer from, and I don't agree with profiting from it. That's where I stand on that. Tranq darts may not be fast enough, so the gorilla may freak out. Exactly, and that's why my instinct was like, why didn't they just use tranq darts? Why'd they kill him? But then I was like, ugh, I understand why they killed him. I understand, unfortunately. How about some preventative actions? No, you're right. I mean, you are not wrong. So that's another thing that I don't know if I'll ever get the answers to. Are these all saved animals in the zoo? I don't think so. Like that jaguar that was shotgunned in the face, or whatever happened to it, to him, that's a definite search, and that's a rescue mission, right? They rescued him. They have him in a facility where they're taking care of him. Agree 1000%. But I don't think the same can be said for all the animals that are in there. I don't think all of them were rescued. So that's an issue for me.
Gorilla, they're very big.
A nerve-wracking ordeal unfolding Saturday afternoon.
So then what
The child's
happens
mother
is,
watching from above.
Mommy's right here.
Authorities say the child climbed over the 3-foot barrier.
so this is sort of what the place where the gorillas roam looks like. And it's shocking that the kid didn't like get a concussion or something. That's what's also shocking. How do you fall from that high? I mean, like, that's amazing. Thank goodness that he wasn't harmed. I think they said he suffered like light, or he suffered some I can't remember exactly what they said, but he didn't
made his way through wires and bushes and then plunged the
really
15 feet into the moat. The gorilla cornering the boy and then picking him up.
That's
Child
terrifying.
was being dragged around.
Like, that's
His head was
terrifying.
banging on concrete. This was not a gentle thing.
At one point, the primate stops and appears to hold the child's hand, later propping the boy up from behind and eventually dragging him all the way to the other side of the cage. After 10 excruciating minutes,
So it was 10 minutes. And of course, like, a part of me wants to know, what was the gorilla thinking? Does it act like that with his own cub or her own cubs, or whatever gorilla babies are called? Because if that's the way that they deal with their own children, you know how cats grab their kittens by the scruff? I always thought, like, oh my god, that's so painful, but apparently that's just how they do it. Like, they just grab their kittens by their scruff, and they just drag them along wherever they want them to go. And it's possible, in my opinion, that the gorilla was just treating this little thing as it would do with its own cub? Because maybe that's how they treat their own cub. They just like drag them around. I don't know. Have extra skin back there, and it's not exactly. And that's something that I learned, but I didn't know that. So to me, looking at that, I was like, oh my God, that's so painful. What are they doing? Stop, stop, stop. But then my sister told me that that's just how they carry their kittens. Apparently puppies too. I didn't know that about puppies back then too. But maybe that's just how they deal with their own cubs, and we don't know that. Well, I don't know that. So it's possible, but of course, as a parent looking at your child being dragged like that, you will panic and get scared. To become submissive. Yeah, I've seen that. So that's the whole Harambe situation. And I don't really have a comment on the Harambe situation aside from the fact that how was this silver-backed gorilla, because they're really strong, so there might have been some kind of force or definitely a lot of tranquilizers used if they captured this gorilla. I just don't see how a zoo can have this many gorillas that are all rescued. To me, that just doesn't make sense, but I can't tell you for a fact because I also haven't found research through my research that has shown that this was a captured gorilla, that was a captured lion, all of them were captured. So it's hard to comment on that. I can just tell you guys my opinions. Ghosty says, another thing that's bothering me are the ethics of zoos rendered somewhat moot by the lack of any clean solution. Aside from launching some form of massive undertaking to reintroduce captive animals into the wild, how would the problem be addressed? Sorry if my thoughts are poorly timed in the discussion. No, it's no problem. I could address that at the end, but please keep that in mind because I really do like that question. To go further with the zoos, in Thailand, tiger selfies are really common. Now, I saw an article of 2019 that said that there were a lot of Harambe was born in Texas. Harambe was born in Texas. Are they native to Texas? Silver-backed gorillas? I don't know. I'm actually asking. I don't know. Where was I? Yeah, so in 2019, there was some kind of scandal of Thailand, of tigers in Thailand being drugged for people to take selfies with them. And I think one good thing that I'm going to talk about later is it never crossed my mind when I went to a magic show where they had tigers doing tricks. And when I saw this whole tiger selfie business, I was like, holy crap. I have supported a magic show that had tiger performers, like tiger performances. And I never even thought that the tiger's in a cage, people are taking pictures with the tigers, it's doing all these tricks, it's being super submissive. What had to have happened to the tiger, or how was it treated in order to become that submissive? Because I do think at the end of the day, tigers are just like snakes. They don't really have loyalty to people. Like, their instinct is to survive, is to kill, is to feed, and like just go through the normal, rotations of life. I don't think a snake can ever truly become your friend, but that's my personal opinion. I feel like eventually they will turn on you, and it's not their fault. That's just how they are. Same thing with tigers. I feel like you can't domesticate tigers. They're just not meant to be domesticated. So this whole in order to get the whole drugging of tigers, I can totally see that happening. I think there was a I didn't finish reading the article, but I did see there was a case opened about the tigers. So I don't know if they have stopped allowing people to take selfies with tigers after that incident. I don't know, but I know that was an incident in Phuket Zoo in Thailand. And elephant rides are still happening around the world. I think it was Vietnam where it used to happen, and Vietnam has recently quit doing elephant rides. But elephant rides are very common in South Asian countries such as Indonesia, Thailand, and if I'm not mistaken, I think India too. There was a case of an elephant named Sambo. She was an elderly elephant that collapsed while carrying tourists in Cambodia. And when the vet commented on Sambo, she said that she died of a heart attack from heat temperature, heat exhaustion, lack of wind that would have helped to cool her. And it said that the female elephant had been working under scorching heat for 45 minutes, carrying 2 tourists, one at a time, to the attraction. And what they said in the article is that elephant spines cannot support the weight of human beings. It can't support the weight of humans. And doing that all day can cause a lot of spinal injuries. And elephants are a lot like humans. They want to socialize. They want to spend time with their friends and their families. And they feel pain and sorrow and happiness. And when they are performing these acts for tourism, like these rides or these tricks or whatever they do in these camps, they are kept away from their friends and their families, and they're kept in isolation. A lot of them are chained when they're not working. And a lot of tourists have commented on seeing elephants swaying and pacing and bobbing their heads. And the article said that behavior is like stress-induced behavior. It's from it shows psychological stress. So if you're ever in a situation where, you know, you're in one of these countries, or you're in a country and they mention, you know, we're going to go see the elephants or we're going to go see tigers, it's always a good idea to question details about what type of viewing is happening. Like, are you going to see them in their natural habitat, or are you like going to sit on them, or like what type of viewing it is? And I never even thought to ask. Like, when I was growing up, I heard about elephant rides, and it never even crossed my mind to even think like maybe it's a good idea to find out, because I think I never paid attention to the fact that maybe they're being mistreated, and maybe we shouldn't be sitting on them. I've never sat on an elephant, but I always thought that looked kind of cool. Like, come on, Aladdin the cartoon, it looked pretty cool. But of course now I think differently. And elephants leads me to then my next point of the conversation, which is circuses. And what I found interesting about circuses is that there aren't a lot of existing circuses with wildlife animals, which is great, which is amazing. There's a lot of cruelty that went into training a lot of the animals, especially elephants, to do tricks. They were deprived of water, they were deprived of food, so that they could learn these tricks, similar to orcas. And there's also these tricks that they were trained to perform are very foreign acts. Like, what was it? Balancing the ball on its trunk and things like that, out of their natural habitat, out of their natural practices. Like, that's not what they're meant to be doing. Let me just catch up on chat. Jeremy says he was bred in confinement, probably. I don't agree with that. Ghosty says we have domesticated tigers. They're called cats, though. D says domesticated wolves too. We call them dogs. You can pretty much domesticate any mammal. The issue with wolves and big cats, though, is that they're big and they don't know their own strength. Dogs evolved to work symbiotically with humans. Lions and tigers don't have that, and accidents can happen. Happened to But also, D, I guess a lot of my thinking goes to why. Why are you trying to domesticate lions? Why are you trying to domesticate tigers? I don't. The only why I can see is it's cool to have a tiger. Or maybe you are trying to rescue the tiger. But like, I just don't understand why. Sure, it can be done, but why? Why are you doing it? And you're probably taking it away from its home, its natural habitat, its friends, family, all of that. And I think we don't care about that because we see them as lesser than. Almost as much so as felines. And when I was doing the research about the circuses, it said animals can be taught to perform many tricks and all kinds of tricks, provided that, and they can be sort of trained to be provided their minimum food and nutrition and water and their shelter as long as they do these tricks, which is really messed up. And that takes away from just the basic respect of these animals. So that's one of the reasons that if I know a circus has a wild has an animal performing, I won't go to that circus. I don't think I've been to a circus possibly ever because I don't have any memories of it, but I do remember there was a circus that came to Toronto a few years ago, and we were gonna go, and my sister, or like it was like 7 years ago or something, before I had this whole epiphany from my sister, there was a circus we were gonna go, and my sister said no, this one it clearly has animals on the flyer, meaning there are animals gonna be there, and you don't know how much you have to break an animal to be doing all these tricks for human entertainment and human pleasure. So I'm not going to go if you guys are going to go. And when she said that, I was pretty annoyed because I was just like, no, you're just making that shit up. But I'm glad we didn't go. That was incorrect of me to feel that way. Jeremy says, could domestication be used as a tool for survival? Possibly. Yeah, that's what I was saying about dogs. That's why there's kind of a divergence in their evolution from wolves. Dogs have a symbiotic relationship with humans. Could domestication be used as a tool for... Oh, what? So sorry. What do you mean? As a tool for survival. So if like a species is going extinct, then you domesticate them to keep them safe in your homes? Is that what you mean? Also, what does symbiotic mean? And the last thing that I wanted to discuss in terms of the institutions and my opinions about these institutions is hunting. So the hunting bit, I know it's vastly split between people who are very pro hunting and very against hunting. And my views on hunting is that I do believe at one point back when there was hunter-gatherer time, it was necessary for us to survive. We had to go and we had to get our food. But nowadays, I feel like there's a lot of people who do it for sport, or they do it for pleasure, or it's exhilarating, or they do it for the thrill. And I'm completely against that. And I'm also against taxidermy. I don't like taxidermy of animals that are hunted. We're not talking about taxidermy for personal use. Like, I'm not even going to get into that. That's your own personal business. I haven't put enough thought towards that to have an opinion. But I know taxidermy for hunting, taxidermy for animals that have been hunted, I completely disagree with that. It's you're almost placing it like a prize of an animal that you hunted, and it's like you're proud of it. I'm not. I disagree with that. And through my research, I read that a lot of the loud noises that happen in these areas where hunters go, it could disrupt the animals' eating habits, their mating rituals, Some of them might get like super freaked out and leave behind their kids when they flee. The fear and stress could disrupt their daily routines. And it also said that when it disrupts their eating habits, it could make it hard for them to store fat and energy that they need to survive in the winter. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know that. And the hunting also could disrupt migration and hibernation patterns, and could leave a lot of animals injured when hunters miss their targets. However, I do understand that there's some people that hunt and they like actually hunt in places, I guess, where it's legal, and they hunt a specific animal because they want to eat that meat. Personally speaking, I still disagree with that, because I feel like we're not dying or hungry or like we have no other means to eat that we need to eat moose meat or deer meat or whatever other kind of meat. Like, we have our regular meat, and like, just eat the regular meat if you want to eat meat that's there. But that's just the way I look at it. I don't understand why you need to go out of your way and disrupt these communities. Yeah, I don't know. But I understand that there's some people who do it, and they actually do it because they enjoy deer meat or whatever kind of meat that they're hunting. So that's that. My issue is mainly with people who are hunting just for the pure purpose of entertainment and pleasure, and they really draw out the hunting of animals, and it's not an instant kill. The animal usually suffers a lot, things like that. And then I also read that some hunting groups claim that by obeying laws and killing free-range animals in a manner that does not give humans an improper advantage over their prey, the activity constitutes as a fair chase. However, if they're doing the whole fair chase thing, then why are these people going and hunting these animals with an arrow? Because I feel like an arrow is not a clean kill. I don't know, man. I feel like if you're going to do the hunting and you're genuinely doing it so that you can survive off of this meat or eat this meat or cook and give to the hungry, because an argument I saw for hunting was like, we kill like a whole bunch of deer or whatever, and then we make a whole bunch of different dishes, and then we go and feed the hungry. Then I don't think that you should be using freaking crossbows. This ain't no Walking Dead. You aren't Daryl. Why are you using a crossbow? That's not a clean kill. That's not fast. The animal is definitely probably suffering. It's just so shady, man. I don't know. There are things like that really bother me, and it's such a strange topic. I don't know. Crossbow or bow and arrow? Both of them I feel like is I don't know. It just doesn't make sense for me to hunt. So this one says bows and arrows, but I disagree with both. What was I gonna say? So in the research, it also said contrary to what hunters often say in defense of their cruel pastime, hunting has nothing to do with conservation or population control. In fact, animals are often specially bred and raised for hunters to kill. So I didn't quite understand what that meant. So I was going to ask you guys, what does that mean? In fact, animals are often specially bred and raised for hunters to kill. So does that mean they get an animal in captivity and then they breed them and then they release them in an area for hunters to kill them? Is that what it is? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. The messed up thing though that I found about, let me just catch up on chat really quick. A symbiotic relationship is one where there's a give and take from both sides, like how the remora cleans sharks by eating the mess off of them. Oh, okay. Yeah, trophy hunting, exactly. Some places actually promote hunting so the population doesn't grow too large. Like around here, we have a lot of city deer, and it can cause issues on the roads. My uncle hunts a lot, and I'm not his biggest fan. And I think the taxidermied heads are kind of trashy, but I don't have an issue with hunting. Okay, and that's fair. That's your opinion. It's more fun for them, clearly. I know so little about hunting, so I shouldn't say anything. I don't know a lot about hunting, but what I do know is I disagree with certain things. Hi, Very Fan. I would rather use crossbow or bow and arrow on some humans than on animals. Wouldn't we all? D says, whether it's with a bow or a gun, hunters still have to track them down usually and finish them off. Fair. Completely fair. True. But I just think if you are going to use a weapon, why are you using a crossbow or a bow and arrow? To me, that definitely shows less of like necessity and more this is more fun. You didn't watch the chicken farm videos. I have not, but I have heard of them. And because I know animal cruelty is such a huge topic, that's why I'm focusing purely for entertainment reasons. Animal cruelty and entertainment. But what I found interesting that I didn't know is most federal and state agencies that are charged with managing wildlife refuges, national forests, so the people that are supposed to be managing the wildlife areas, the forests, the state parks, and other public lands, they are funded in part by hunting and fishing activities, probably because they allow people to hunt on that land. Is that not correct? So agency personnel often go out of the way to encourage these activities rather than regulate or police them. Or is that not allowed? I don't know. I don't know enough about the laws, to be honest. But the research also showed that agencies and special interest groups hold events and support clubs that target people who are less likely to purchase licenses, such as women and racial minorities and senior citizens. Wildlife agencies. So wildlife agencies are people who are trying to protect the wildlife. They also know that hunters are more likely to purchase licenses in or is wildlife agencies the hunting agencies? Dogfights. Yes. Wrong. Completely disagree with that. So this is the part that was confusing me. Wildlife agencies are funded by excise taxes on hunting and fishing equipment, okay? And by revenue from sales of licenses. So is it that here is the land we're supposed to be protecting and the animals on this land we're supposed to be protecting, but since we're getting money from the hunting industry, we're going to allow people to hunt on these lands? Is that the way it's working? I'm Confucius too. I'm very Confucius. Wildlife agencies also know that hunters are more likely to purchase licenses in subsequent years if a previous hunt resulted in a kill. I think so, because if hunters keep hunting in a certain area and they get a kill, they're more likely to renew their license for that area. So they implement programs called wildlife management or conservation programs that are designed to boost the number of game species. These programs help to ensure that there are plenty of animals for hunters to kill, and consequently plenty of revenue from the sale of hunting licenses. Oh, my question is, how are they breeding these animals to be out in their areas to be killed? Are they breeding them? Yeah, they're making sure that there's enough to kill. So are they capturing these animals and breeding them? I don't know. And I wanted to also talk about some of the laws in place, because it really makes you question, with all of these different instances that we've seen over the years of this animal cruelty, like what laws are in place to protect these animals. So the research showed that on the federal level, the Animal Welfare Act covers warm-blooded animals in aquariums, such as marine mammals and penguins, but does not apply to fish and invertebrates, which are the bulk of the animals in the water, and the fish in the water. The Marine Mammal Protection Act offers some protection for whales, dolphins, seals, walruses, sea lions, sea otters, polar bears, and manatees, but does not prohibit keeping them in captivity. The Endangered Species Act covers endangered species that might be in an aquarium and applies to all types of animals, including marine animals, but does not including fish and invertebrate. But animal cruelty statutes vary by state. Some of them protect certain animals, some of them protect certain marine animals. So there's no set or standard law in place that prevents the capturing of animals for entertainment purposes, not for rehabilitation purposes, not for protection purposes, not for conservation purposes, but I genuinely mean for entertainment purposes. Zoos are covered by the Federal Animal Welfare Act, which sets minimal housing and maintenance standards for captive animals. But when I was doing the research, it was saying that the Department of Agriculture has an inspection that they have to do once per year, but they only have, like, I think it's at 100. Yeah, it only has about 100 employees who are responsible for inspecting more than 10,000 facilities each year. And that's why a lot of things go under the table. That's like those health inspectors that come around to restaurants. How many times have you seen cockroaches walking around restaurants and you're like, how have you not been shut down yet? It's because there aren't enough inspectors, that are able to call out these companies. And I think the same thing goes for these zoos or these places that are abusing animals. And another thing I learned is more than 150 cities and countries across the 37 states have restricted or banned the use of wild animals in circuses and traveling shows, with more than 1/3 of those laws passing since 2014. So remember how I said for circuses, I couldn't see a lot of circuses that still have wild animals performing? Apparently, there are some laws in place that have restricted or banned the use of wild animals in circuses, which is awesome. That's a step in the right direction. Great. And in Canada, there aren't any national or provincial bans for circuses using exotic animals, but there are a lot of Canadian municipalities that have enacted certain municipality bylaws. And the coolest thing that I found out was there is a very popular Canadian circus called the Royal Canadian International Circus, and as of 2020 they have not as of 2020, as of 2017 they have removed all exotic animals or endangered species from their acts. So they have been going 3 years strong, which is pretty awesome. So I was very happy to hear that. Very, very happy to hear that. And I would like to close by the second last thing that I wanted to discuss is before I wonder how much inspectors have to put up with. They know full well if there's any warning, people will clean up. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if by law you're supposed to give them a warning. I hope not. I don't know. Sometimes I think laws are too lenient. Okay. So. I've told you guys my opinions. Why I choose not to support a lot of the zoos. Why I choose not to support a lot of the aquariums. Why I choose not to support circuses that have animals performing. And my views on hunting. Now I want to talk about what are some arguments that people make in favor of all of these types of areas. So feel free to contribute to this conversation, because I, of course, won't have mentioned all of the arguments for. I've only mentioned some of them, but there are many more. One argument I kept seeing is that it's educational. Having zoos are educational. Having aquariums are educational. Having orca shows are educational. However, I do think that if you truly, and I'll stand by this, if you truly want to have an educational experience, we are blessed to live in a time that we have things like Discovery Channel, Natural Geographic, Netflix documentaries of the world, of the water, of the wildlife, of, I think I forgot what the series was called. There was one about Earth, which was like galaxy and stuff. Or was it just Earth? One was all about land. It showed like all the animals that were on the land. One was about the water. I think one was space. I can't remember. But we have these extremely detailed and very passionate and particular people, photographers or professors or experts in these topics that have documentaries, have books, have taken close-up beautiful pictures of all of these things that we want to be educated about. I don't think that witnessing an animal that is kept in captivity and captured, first and foremost, to be a spectacle, to be of entertainment, is the best way to go about getting your education. A lot of these places are poorly regulated, and there could be a lot of abuse that's happening behind closed doors. And beyond that, let's just say they're being treated amazingly. My issue is with capturing these animals for the purposes of entertainment. Why is that happening? If you are capturing the animal because you've seen it wounded and you're trying to rehabilitate them, or it's a conservation effort, or it's endangered and you're trying to keep it from being harmed or something, then I can understand those efforts, and I can understand those efforts. However, most of the animals in the zoos, I don't think are there because of conservation. And on top of that, then, if that's the situation, why are you profiting off of people coming and gawking at these animals? That's the other thing that I don't agree with. If you, in captivity, in sanctuaries, I don't know if you're allowed to go and see the animals. I think you can in the elephant sanctuary, but they're kept in a sanctuary. It's a safe place for these animals to be rehabilitated or to live if they're endangered, and to be taken care of. Then I understand. But if I'm not mistaken, a lot of sanctuaries are not for profit. If I'm not mistaken. Zoos just don't rub me the right way. Even if they have a certain portion of their zoo that is dedicated towards conservation efforts and protection efforts and rehabilitation efforts and a sanctuary, It just doesn't make sense that the rest of it is not. If you want to have just a sanctuary, make a sanctuary. But then you can't have a sanctuary with all of those animals. Ain't nobody got the space for all of that. I know the sanctuary that my sister visited, they only took in like certain species because they were only specialized in taking care of those certain species, and they only had space for those certain species. So they would take care of them, they would rehabilitate them, and then they would release them back into the wild. However, of course, there are situations where these animals cannot be released back into the wild, because if they do, it will be detrimental for them. Like that example I gave you of the jaguar that was blinded. And he's severely like has infections and stuff in his eyes because or not infections. He's severely wounded. I don't think he can survive in the wild like that, so I can understand if they want to keep him there, but then they should give him the proper space necessary for him to live comfortably. So other arguments that people give are wait. That certain zoos say that they want to protect the species from extinction, and they want to practice conservation efforts. Some of them actually want to do that, but I also think that some of them, because they're profiting off of it, maybe actually, that's not fair to say. I believe that there are certain zoos that are actually practicing conservation efforts and trying to rehabilitate and protect animals, and they're not actually trying to capture them. And I do believe that there's some that are doing that. So it's sort of up to you to find out which is which. It's up to us to find that out. I just stay away from zoos altogether because I would prefer to support and spend my money on a sanctuary that I know is dedicated towards conservation efforts and rehabilitation efforts and protection efforts, as opposed to a zoo that I know is profiting off of these animals that they have either captured or are trying to rehabilitate, but they're still profiting off of people coming and watching all these animals in captivity, which is just something that just rubs me the wrong way. Sometimes funding might be an issue too. Yeah, funding might be an issue too. But I also read an important point that said if you truly, truly care about conservation and you truly care about conserving these animals' habitats, maybe what we should be thinking about is preserving their habitats and not, cutting down all of these forests and not hunting in places where there are endangered species and it's not legal to hunt, and destroying homes. And a lot of the reasons these endangered species are losing their homes is that we are killing their species. We are using their skin, we're using their horns, we're using it for personal enjoyment, pleasure, entertainment, gain in whatever way, medicine. Good night. Bye, Jeremy. Thank you for making me part of your night. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And there are other people that believe that hunting is a good source of population control. I think that nature has its own way of balancing population control. So for me, that's not a valid reason, but I can understand how people can see that as something that hunting could help with. Hunting is a weird one for me because I'm really trying to understand like other people's perspective, right? So as I said, I understand if people are hunting because they truly just want to go and get food and cook the food. I just don't agree with people who do it for the entertainment purposes and for the thrill of the hunt. Would they find that exhilarating? I disagree with that. And I think the dog fights was a good idea good point that Very Fan brought up, that's something that is clearly for human gain and entertainment, and it happens around the world. And I think Ghosty made a very good point, and he said, are the ethics of zoos rendered somewhat moot by the lack of any clean solution? I'm gonna search up what moot means. Excuse me. Subject to debate or dispute. Okay. Aside from launching some form of massive undertaking to reintroduce captive animals into the wild, how would the problem be addressed? Okay. I'm gonna tell you what I think. Okay? I'm gonna tell you what I think. I think the animals that were captured and put in the zoo should be released out into the wild. Okay? However, if their parents were captured from the wild, okay, and put into captivity, and then their babies are raised in captivity, you just put them at a disadvantage. But I also don't agree with continuing to allow them to live in captivity. Maybe they should be sent to a sanctuary. So if there are babies that have been raised in captivity, and they have their natural instincts, but they don't have the skills of like hunting and all of that, I think they should be put in a sanctuary. I don't know how practical that is. I don't know about funding and all that, but I do think that they should be put in a sanctuary. So tigers that have been bred and babies that have been born in captivity and all they've seen is the zoo, I think they should all be taken and put in a sanctuary. And along with their families, and whoever is able to go, who literally came from the wild, put them back in the wild. If there was a gorilla that was captured, put that gorilla back where it belongs. But the problem with that, Ghosty, is then people are going to lose money. And I think that's why those actions haven't been taken yet, because it hasn't become illegal. The only reason people would start doing these things if they suddenly had a moment of clarity and they realized that these animals should not be in captivity. This is not what they're supposed to be like. This is not how it's supposed to be. Other than that, I feel like they're just going to continue profiting. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, the only reason they would even get to a point of releasing all of these animals or evaluating each animal on a case-by-case basis is if they had a moment of clarity. I thought of another ethical quandary. If an animal in the wild that would surely have low odds of survival, if left, is unaided, is discovered by humans and aided to be re-released with better odds of survival, then will that ever make up for the endless animal lives that humans take every year? It could. Practicality and justice, yeah. It could. I mean, we got to start somewhere, right? Like, I completely agree with the fact that we can't dwell in the past, and we can't just be like, oh my God, we've done so many bad things. Like, how can we move forward? I don't know if we can move forward. So let's just keep doing what we're doing. All damage has already been done. I feel like it's never too late to put a stop to it and be like, okay, what can we do? And how can we move forward? On a smaller scale, what we can do on a smaller scale is don't visit aquariums. Don't visit aquariums like I did. I went to that aquarium when I shouldn't have. Don't visit aquariums that are keeping these animals in these mammals and this marine life in these compact tanks. Don't support those organizations. Don't buy tickets to zoos that have captured animals. Bye, Brandon. Have a good night. Have a damn scrumptious night and a great stream if you are going to be streaming. I'm glad you found it informative. Yeah, let's just not support organizations and institutions or companies that clearly profit off of animals that are in captivity. Let's not support them. Don't go to circuses that have wildlife performing. Don't go to aquariums like that. Don't go to zoos like that. Instead, support rehabilitation centers and conservation sites. And before you support a wildlife organization or a conservation group, also ask the question of what are their views on hunting practices. What type of hunting do they? Because if it's a sanctuary or it's a protected land, remember the research also said that sometimes the people who are in charge of those lands get funding from hunting. From the hunting industry, so they allow people to hunt on their lands. So if you are going to support a conservation association or an organization and they're going to allow people to come hunting on their land, and you are choosing to make that decision, at least make that conscious decision that, well, I'm supporting this organization and I think that nature kind of does its own thing. So I don't know if hunting, for me, my opinion, I don't think hunting is a part of conservation, but I do understand that people view hunting as a part of conservation because they're doing the population control. But if it's a conservation site of, I don't know, like tigers or something, if it's a conservation site of animals that shouldn't be hunted, it's a good idea to ask that sanctuary or that conservation organization if they condone hunting or if there's any hunting done on their grounds, just so that you know like what they do with their land as well. Another thing that we can do is we can spread awareness. If my sister hadn't told me that these mammals that are in these aquariums are living in captivity, I wouldn't have seen them as living in captivity. I would have seen them as, oh my God, it's so beautiful, it's so pretty, I just want to go see them, and this is the only way I'm going to get to see them. If in my opinion, if you really want to see animals in their natural habitat and there aren't any conservation sites near you, or there aren't any sanctuaries near you that allow admission to the public to go and see these animals in their somewhat natural habitat, then save up your money, find out where these animals are living in their natural habitat, and just go see it yourself. D says, I wasn't here for parts. Did you talk about the dentist that illegally killed the lion that took a picture with it? Oh my God, no, I did not talk about that. What was that all about? I did not talk about that. Ghosty also said, I also asked this, and I think it might have been better for this end segment. How do we ask humans to look at the animals in zoos with the same empathy we'd show to our friends, when a lot of humans don't even extend their empathy to all humans? That's a tough one, Ghosty. Like, honestly, I think I kind of answered it, but what do you think? I think it's an ego thing. I also think that people need to reframe how they view animals. They view animals as lesser than, and I think that's where that lack of empathy comes from. One of the places, where it comes from for animals. It was a lion that was actually being tracked, like it was tagged. It had a name. I don't know what that means. Like, what does that mean? I think that media must play a large part of it. Yes, but I can also tell you, Ghosty, from personal experience. Oh my god, this sounds so familiar. I feel like I heard about this case. Oh my god, I feel like I heard about this case. But no, I didn't talk about that. Listen, D, this topic is so huge that I just didn't have enough time to, like, I already spent like 4 hours just researching all of this. So I mentioned this in the beginning. I don't think you were here for it, but like in the very beginning, I mentioned that I know this topic is huge and I will only be talking about like the tip of it. And I know that there's so much I probably missed and so much I'm not addressing. But the main purpose of this talk was just to talk about, you know, my views on zoos, my views on circuses, aquariums, and what they are, and what are some cases that I've seen around the world or researched around the world of animal captivity, but also the other sides of it where they are doing good. They are trying to have they are making conservation efforts, but if you are going to support whatever organization you choose to support, it's good to just do it with a sense of consciousness. When I was going to zoos in the past, when I was going to aquariums in the past, I wasn't even thinking about animal cruelty. I wasn't thinking about animal captivity. I wasn't thinking about any of these things. I wasn't even thinking like, how did that gorilla get over here? I didn't even think like, maybe it's not from here. Maybe it's from another country and it was transported over here. Did it have like holes in a box or something? How was it transported? Was it tranquilized? How did they get a tiger under control? Was it wounded? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, ask yourself these questions, which I wasn't doing before. And this talk is partly also for me to make up for me to not make up, but for me to reflect on all the times that I didn't make the right decision and I wasn't aware of all of like the darker side of these institutions that are shown to be these very amazing entertaining places at the cost of animals. So I don't know, Ghosty. That's a tough question. What do you think? Is hunting a part of conservation in that sometimes a predatory species in a sanctuary is populating too much and must be culled to preserve a balance? Ooh, I don't know. Locked into the role of hunting in conservation. It is to... looked into the role of hunting in conservation. It is to promote biodiversity so that one race is not, or one species is not predominant or something. I don't believe that short of an evolutionary change in our species, any unanimous empathy will ever be had towards each other. Or, oh, sorry, that's what I was saying. You just reminded me of something. I can tell you from personal experience, when I was in the Middle East, I saw with my own eyes someone like kicked a dog. And when I was in Pakistan, there was like when the cow was being slaughtered, it was done as a spectacle. It was done around all these people in the neighborhood. Everyone came by, was watching the cow struggle and all of this. And when you see things like that around the world, you realize, or it makes you feel that behavior stems from a lack of education and teaching. All of these people, me included, that came out because like my extended family, I was visiting, so I didn't even know what was going on, but my extended family was like, oh, come outside, look, there's a cow being slaughtered. I was a kid. I was like 12 or something, or 13. I didn't like quite understand what was going on, in the sense of like, why is this a spectacle? Like, do I have to be here? I was in that mode of like, the adult set, I gotta go. But I remember looking away and being like, I don't want to be here, and I walked away, or like I looked away. But that their animals are treated that way because they're not shown respect. People are not taught to respect animals. They are seen as lesser than. So I feel like the teaching also should start at home of how you should view animals. That's a way to teach empathy. We will always have those who care and love all life. Yes. Finding where we exist is part of living, but knowing is one thing and taking action is another. Absolutely. D says, I'm not trying to be combative, by the way. I'm just trying to challenge your view a little so we can all deepen our understanding of these issues. Otherwise, it seems a bit biased in a holier than thou, in my opinion. Yeah, I get it. I understand, D. I understand. Trust me, I get it. And that's why I make it very clear that these are my opinions. These are just how I feel. And I'm coming from a place of like, I was on the other end where I never thought about these things. And now I'm like really thinking about, or trying to at least think about my actions and what are the deeper, not repercussions, but like what are the deeper meanings of these. What? I don't think I missed it. He was answering his question that I had asked him to answer, yeah? I'm certain that where we all fit in that spectrum, will largely be decided by what emotional attachments or bonds we form with non-human animals in our lifetimes. So do you think that the only way that you can develop that kind of empathy would be with having attachments with non-human animals? There have also been a lot of accounts of, I know I keep mentioning this, but it's very disturbing, people lighting dogs on fire. I think that kind of human curiosity at the expense of an animal suffering needs to stem from the household. Because it's usually kids doing that stupidness. Interesting, Ghosty. Okay. No, I don't, D. Tell me. Is that Mo? How you doing, Mo? It's been going really well. Thank you for asking. I got demoted again in bronze. Good thing they're resetting. Sorry, in Valorant. Good thing they're resetting really soon. A lot of black cats go missing every year on Halloween because people take them in. What the hell? What is wrong with people? Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Yeah, see, that's just absolute silliness. Absolute. I don't understand. I really don't get it. I don't understand, man. Ghosty says, and just as a personal note, I have never had a pet that I've loved as much as I should have. So my level of personal experience with viewing other animals as equals is minimal. I do not consider my cat an equal. Okay. I understand that. I get it. That's based on your experiences. However, Ghosty, even though you don't see your cat as an equal, you do recognize, or do you recognize that harming animals or having animals in captivity for the purposes of human entertainment is incorrect? Because I feel like even if people don't see animals as an equal, if they can have that empathy or kindness towards animals, yeah, that's my sister's cat too. She just runs at everything. My goodness. I figured it had some kind of trauma because my sister's cat came from an abusive household. Oh, I was just saying, even though you don't see your cat as an equal, do you think that you still see things like abuse to animals or having animals in captivity from their homes for human entertainment as incorrect? Or do you feel like it doesn't really bother you because you don't have that like empathy for them? I might do some Twitch things later. I'll buy you a drink. But before I do, I'll be taking a little bit of a break and then I'll be coming back. I mean, my dog was the closest thing to a child I've ever had. I never saw her as equal, I guess, because I was still like her leader. And I had to know when to say no. All I feel comfortable saying is that any animals with a level of intelligence enough to feel pain should not feel pain on the account of humans. Well put. That's and that's what I was trying to Right, Ghosty. But what I was going for or trying to understand is that you said that it's more likely for people to have empathy for animals when they've experienced that kind of connection and love towards a non-human companion that they've raised or had, affection for. And since you haven't, you don't see it as an animal as an equal. Your animal as an equal. And I think that's completely fine if you don't see it as an equal. As long as people don't take that as an opportunity to abuse animals. You're not my equal, therefore I can abuse you. You can say, I don't think you're my equal. And that's that. Like, it ends there. It doesn't have to lead to abuse. Exactly. Good point, D. Exactly. Well, I am glad that I got to speak about my views on zoos and aquariums and circuses, and I got to find a lot of new information. And I also got to, through my research, I also got to see how complicated certain parts of this discussion are, because when I saw that case of that jaguar that was shot, that zoo had taken in the animal and was trying to rehabilitate the animal, the jaguar. However, so I agreed with that, but then I didn't agree with the rest of the zoo, because the assumption is, or the underlying assumption is, that the rest of the animals were captured. And you can't get facts or information about each and every animal that is in each zoo and what means were used to get or attain that animal. So my default is to just not support zoos. But if you're not supporting a zoo that has a sanctuary on site or has also a conservation, is participating in conservation efforts, then you're taking away funding from those efforts. So it gets a little complicated. It's not as black and white as I would like it to be. But a lot of my views, still stand. I disagree with the things I disagree with, and then I agree with the things I agree with, and then I'm iffy about the things that I still haven't completely formed an opinion on just yet. But for everyone that was here, for everyone who participated in the discussion, for everyone that, took this opportunity as a chance to reflect on themselves or to reflect on their life or their thoughts, or just think about their own thoughts and reflect on what their opinions are on these topics. That's great. I'm very, very happy that you were part of this discussion. I'm glad that you were here. You took this opportunity to, learn with me. And before I sign off and raid someone, I do want to complete the night or this discussion with one thing. It is not related to this discussion directly, but it is about an animal. And let me just catch up on chat before I do that. That's good. I'm just saying that I'm not so considerate of any of other animals that I won't support the meat industry. Right. The underlying assumption. But what I will say is there was a shirt that I bought a while back called that said Save the Bees. I thought it was a super cute shirt. It's yellow. It's got Save the Bees on it. And although I was very tempted to put it on, I absolutely refused to put on the shirt unless I found out what's so great about bees. Why is everybody trying to save bees? I didn't just want to be a bandwagon jumper. I wanted to actually be like, I believe this, save the bees. So, since I made that promise to myself, we're going to find out about bees today. Let's find out about bees. Right now. Right now. Right meow. Oh God, Slay, hello, hello. Thank you so much for wait, why did I say hello to you? Slay, thank you so much for redeeming that exercise time. We're gonna do 5 exercise reps. We're going on an adventure because trees and shit, right? I don't know. Why should we save the bees? Earth Day. Facts about bees. There are more than blah. Okay, so honestly, no one cares about how many bees there are. Okay, why do we need to protect the bees? The birds and the bees search off. Man. Usually you get me, D. You ain't getting me this time. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ghosty. Thank you for participating. It was awesome having you here. Role in the ecosystem. Bees are a keystone species. If bees die off, it will end most life. Yeah, rightfully so, D. In nature, various animals depend on bees for their survival because they're food sources. Nuts, berries, seeds, and fruits. Okay. So a lot of animals eat the nuts. A lot of animals eat the berries. A lot of animals eat the seeds, and a lot of animals eat the fruits. Now, how do bees get nuts, berries, seeds, and fruits? They rely on insect pollination. Okay. Pollination also allows floral growth, which provides habitats for animals. Okay, so bees do the pollinating. Okay, which results in floral growth, which provides habitats for animals, including other insects and birds. Okay. So. Okay. So bees pollinate flowers. And the flowers provide homes for a lot of insects, or habitats for insects and birds. Okay, promotes floral growth. Lastly, bees themselves and the honey they produce are a source of food for many animals. True that. A lot of animals depend on bees for their survival because they're food sources. Nuts. Because nuts, berries, seeds, and fruits come from insect pollination. Okay, I understand. While bee populations continue to decline, the production of food crops will decrease as well. Right. As bee pollination is necessary. Okay, so the pollination is what's so important about them. Several important crops. Bees are responsible for pollinating 35% of agricultural production and almost 90 different commercially grown. Okay, I understand. Threats to bees. Okay. Trees and shit. Yeah, now I understand. Threats to bees. Use of pesticides. Exposure to, pesticides, climate change, right. Loss of habitat, right. Agriculture, okay. Oh, plant a bee-friendly garden. That's cute. But they scare me. I won't lie. Bees scare me. Plant your garden. Okay. Is that it? Let's see if there's anything else. Green peas. let's see. Why? Let's see. The hell is well.org? Keeping honeybees doesn't save bees or the environment. Sure, why not? But it's not widely known. I don't know. Bees are beneficial because of their pollination services, helping to provide food in the form of fruits, berries, nuts, leaves, roots, and seeds. Arguably, it is the most interesting part of our diet. I didn't know this. That's amazing. Then again, bees also help to ensure that seeds will set for many kinds of plants, thus enabling a portion of the gather over near. It's worth remembering that food only insect like bees to pollinate a plant for. We may research that. Importance of bees within food webs. Bees also pollinate foods eaten by other animals. Right. Financial contribution to the economy. Bees benefit biodiversity. Quite apart from the pollination is important for food production. Bee farms probably play a big role in protecting bees. Yeah, that I heard about. Or that I can understand. Want to try a video? I've been wondering if you can read articles on stream for my own purposes because you understand the whole text if we scroll. Huh? I've been wondering if you can read articles on stream for my own purposes because it seems to show the whole text if we scroll. Sorry? You're not allowed to read articles on stream? I mean, there are plenty of wildly things you haven't known. Remember Bo Footy's nuts? Bo Footy's nuts. Bo Footy's nuts. That's not my fault. You spelled it differently. Oh my god. Oh my, I'm removing that from the VOD. Okay, I think I understand. Bees save elephants.
Lucy King joined Save the Elephants to find a way of scaring elephants away from crops. But what could an elephant be frightened of?
Bees.
It's the middle of the day, and the Wynns family are dozing under a tree. Breeze doesn't look like she'll be waking up for anyone. But that might be about to change. Lucy sets up to film the Wynns' reaction. Then she turns on the speaker. It's playing sound of swarming, angry honeybees. There's an instant reaction.
Okay, let's try something else. Oh my god. Why save bees? Why are bees important? Yay! Good idea, Slay. I'm gonna speed this up. I haven't got time.
Today, it's all about bees. Everyone loves bees, right? Well, not everyone, but most. And there's something comforting about seeing a bee buzz from flower to flower. A feeling that the universe is ticking away nicely in the background. But it's not all sunshine and lollipops. As you may have heard in the news, bees are in trouble. Across the United States, honeybees are suffering from a mysterious condition known as colony collapse disorder, in which hives are found abandoned. And beyond the honeybee, evidence indicates declines in wild pollinators across both North America and Europe. The reason? Changes in agriculture. Wildflower meadows have been ploughed up, hedges have been ripped out to form bigger fields, pesticide use has massively increased, and humans have been trading bees around the world in tiny little boxes, causing the spread of disease. But why care? So, here, in no particular order, are my top 5 reasons why bees are important. 1. Food. It's not all about honey. Bees, both the wild ones and the ones we keep in hives, are critical for pollinating plants that produce a huge range of food, including blueberries, almonds, and beans. The global value of insect pollination is estimated at €153 billion every year. And while this figure includes contributions from, say, butterflies and beetles, most of the work is done by the bees. Still don't care? Commercially reared bumblebees are important pollinators of tomato plants. If the bees die out, these plants will have to be pollinated by hand using little vibrating wands, which is less fun than it sounds, and more expensive. Tomato growing could become unproductive. No tomatoes means no pizza, and a world without pizza is a sad...
You had me at pizza. Oh, wow. What?
From, say, butterflies and beetles, most of the work is done by the bees. Still don't care? Commercially reared bumblebees are important pollinators of tomato plants. If the bees die out, these plants will have to be pollinated by hand using little vibrating wands, which is less fun than it sounds, and more expensive. Tomato growing could become unproductive. No tomatoes means no pizza, and a world without pizza is a sad and lonely place indeed. 2. Biodiversity. Numerous creatures rely on bees for their own existence. Badgers will dig out the nest to feast on the juicy grubs. Bee eaters consume, well, you can probably guess what they consume. And a whole host of other creatures prey on or parasitize upon the bees, including the endangered oil beetle. Numerous wildflowers depend on bees for pollination. Take away the bees, and there will be drastic consequences for both the plants and the animals that depend on them. The world will become a less colourful, less interesting place. 3. Bees fight crime. Not a joke. Bees have an excellent sense of smell, and in 2008, scientists developed a detector, essentially a box of bees trained to stick out their tongue if they caught a whiff of something dodgy, like explosives. An infrared sensor registers the movement in the bees' tongues and alerts security staff to the presence of danger. 4.
What?
Bees are watchdogs for environmental change.
Wait, what? That can't be. What? Slow down.
Take away the bees, and there will be drastic consequences for both the plants and the animals that depend on them. The world will become a less colourful, less interesting place. 3. In 2008, scientists developed a detector, essentially a box of bees trained to stick out their tongue if they caught a whiff of something dodgy, like explosives. An infrared sensor registers the movement in the bees' tongues and alerts security staff to the presence
FBI. What?
of danger. 4.
Yeah, but I need to be convinced, man. The tomatoes, honestly, the tomatoes convinced me, Ghosty. The tomatoes convinced me. That hit me hard. That pizza comment hit me hard. And that FBI comment.
Bees are watchdogs for environmental change. Or watch bees, if you're being picky. And speaking of picky, numerous bee species have extremely precise habitat requirements. And if that habitat undergoes a change, their populations will respond quickly. Now this makes bees potentially good indicators of environmental disturbance, including climate change. One recent example is the arrival of the tree bumblebee in the UK in 2001 from France. The species has now spread to cover over half the country, but fortunately it's not likely to have any negative impacts on native UK bees. 5. Ecosystem services. These are services to which bees contribute that go beyond just pollinating our food plants. Remember the wild plants pollinated by bees? Well, some of them will grow big and strong and soak up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, a process known as carbon sequestration, potentially offsetting human-caused emissions. Their roots might bind the soil together, preventing erosion, and slow the seepage of water through the ground, helping to minimize floods. At present, no one's calculated the value.
Wow, that's an interesting point. I want to read that again.
5. Ecosystem services. These services...
Really? What?
To which bees contribute that go beyond just pollinating our food plants. Remember the wild plants pollinated by bees? Well, some of them will grow big and strong and soak up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, a process known as carbon sequestration, potentially offsetting
so they soak
human-caused emissions.
dioxide.
Their roots might bind the soil. Carbon sequestration, potentially offsetting human-caused emissions.
Okay, possibly. Interesting. Wow, bees are so important. Oh, sorry. I want to hear that again. Fuck oxygen, it's all about the pizza. Speaking of which, I have some rigatone in the fridge. Let me find my shirt. I have the shirt. I think I've earned it. Save the freaking bees. Okay, I'm allowed to wear that shirt. That was nice. That was really good. That was really good. Where do we continue to have conversations about these real talks in your Discord? That's a great question. I can create a channel under Raven's Real Talk every time I have a real talk, and I'll leave it open for a week for people to dump their thoughts in there or their questions or have a discussion, and then I'll archive it after that week is done. So next Monday, I'll archive that channel and put the next one up or something. So yeah, I will have a channel open if anyone would like to continue the discussion about today's Real Talk. Thank you so much, guys, for this talk. It was really, really informative. I learned a lot. I earned my t-shirt. I got to get things off my chest. I got to do a little bit of self-reflection as well. And now I'm going to be rating someone damn scrumptious. Let's head on over. Take care, stay scrumptious, and Raven out. Let's show that good love in the cosplay. Bye, guys.